Hello, today we're going to be talking about the Boolean functions. Now Boolean functions can let us subtract, unify, or intersect objects. So let's have a look at them. Let's go to our positive icon and let's go into the standard primitives and let's select the box option. So let's create a box and also let's bring in a sphere and make sure that these two objects are intersecting with each other. Also, let's create another box. And finally, a cylinder. Now for the cylinder, let's just place it on top of this and let's just bring it to the center. Now, what if I wanted to create a subtraction using these geometries? So let's pick the box and let's head over to the compound objects. So inside compound objects, we will find these ProBoolean and Boolean functions here. Now the difference between Boolean and ProBoolean is that Boolean will act as a non-destructive way. So it's just going to add like a modifier. But ProBoolean will actually convert this geometry into this kind of element here. So let's write ProBoolean first. Now inside the ProBoolean, we can find that we have the pick Boolean option. And we can choose between reference, move, copy, or instance. So once we want to create this subtraction using these shapes will basically just disappear. But if I just hit the copy, they will not be gone. They will just stay there and act as a copy. And also the instance will be basically doing the same thing. So let's just keep it at move. And inside the parameters, we have the union, intersection, or subtraction, or even merge. So let's try out the subtraction option. Now let's start picking by pressing in this tool here. And let's just select these shapes. So I've created a subtraction based on these three geometries here. Now, if I go to my modifiers, I can find out that this is actually a ProBoolean. So in order to further edit this object, I'll right click, convert to Editable Poly. Now I have my usual commands here. Now let's Ctrl Z it, and now let's try the Boolean option. But before that, let's just create another shape. So keep in mind that we're in compound objects. Let's go to the standard primitives and let's pick the box. And also just intersect it with this shape here. Let's pick the box and let's go back to our compound object section. Now let's pick the Boolean. Now Boolean acts in a different way. It's actually just telling us to add some shapes to this list here. So the only one that's here is the original box. So let's add the operands. I'm going to start with this one. And you can see inside the operand parameters, I have the union selected. But what if I just want to create an intersection between these two geometries? I'll be just left with the object that was intersecting. Now let's select the subtract and you can see how easy it is. So if I go to my modifier, now I can see that this is acting as a modifier and not as a ProBoolean object. And if I wanted to further edit this, I would just go down here and I can see the display options. So let's hit on operands. Now I can see the box and I can actually just drag this box into another part of the geometry, let's say this corner, and let's now apply the result display. Now this will act like this, and let's go back to our positive icon and create another type of geometry. I'm going to start with the standard primitives now, and let's say I wanted to create a torus. Alright, I'm just going to hit my R key and scale it down. And I'm just going to position this on top of this box right here. Let's go back to our modifiers. Now I want to add this new geometry to my list. So I'm going to add operand. I'm going to choose these torus and you can see how easy it is to create new geometry like so. Now let's go back to our display and just hit on the operands. I'm going to select my torus and just move it around like so. Go back to our display and show the results, and there we go. I can also just move around this box so that I can better position all of my geometries there. Okay, now I can just convert this to an edit poly, so right click, convert to edit poly. Now just to smooth out all of these edges, I can just call in a chamfer. And now I'm going to just play around this by reducing its amount and also increasing the segments. So if I press F4, I can see that I've created this smoothness on all of my geometry. Now, one thing that we can do just to get rid of these extra shadows here is to bring in another modifier called the weighted normals. So weighted normals will basically just disappear those extra shadows. So that's one way of dealing with it. Now make sure that these is not happening because my torus is way too close to my cylinder here. So we actually can't go back now because I've edited this as a poly. So keep that in mind. If you collapse everything, you can no longer go back. So you can actually just keep stacking the modifiers. Alright, we can do the same thing with splines. So let's go to our positive icon and let's go to our shapes tab. And now using splines, I can just start with a rectangle. And now let's add a circle. We can also call it in a star. And just finally probably another rectangle over here. Now I can choose my rectangle, go to my positive icon, and now in splines I can go to my compound shapes option. Here I can just start picking these new geometries by selecting the shape boolean. And I will also have this list which I can keep adding my geometries. So let's click add operands. And now you can see that I've made one shape using multiple geometries. I can also press the intersection or the subtract and etc. But let's keep it at union. Now let's go back to our modifiers and we can actually start extruding this. So let's call in a extrude modifier and let's just hit the G key to get our grid out of the way. And I can just start extruding this geometry here. Let's just create some additional objects so that we can subtract them. So let's go to our positive icon, again, standard primitives, and I'm just going to hit a box. Now the box I wanted to create on top of this geometry. So let's auto grid. And now I'm just gonna bring it down a bit with the Z axis. And now let's instant this just a couple of times, maybe 3. And let's select all of these and center them inside the geometry like so. Now let's copy these guys as instance and now another copy, but this time as just a copy. Delete this one. And now I can pick these 3 and turn them into an edit poly. I'm just gonna play around with the shapes, make them a little bit more narrow, like so. Now if I select this and go back to my standard primitives tab, I can now call in a compound objects boolean again, and inside of this rectangle you can see that this is reading as a rectangle because in my modifier it's still a spline. So let's go to our boolean and now I'm just going to add the operands. This time these will be my new operands. And I want to subtract them, so let's change this option to subtract. Alright, but each of these boxes have to have the same option. So I can choose them, all of them like so, and just subtract them. And now let's call in a chamfer modifier and let's just fix this. Now for the moment in the metering I'm in uniform, so I like to try in a triangulated way. And also the options, let's just reduce this a bit, maybe to 0.6 around, and the segments let's just also bring in a little bit more of that. It's still a bit too much, so let's just reduce the amount a bit, like so. So I just want to chamfer the edges, and if I go further I'll start to overlap the faces there, so this is better. Now again with these shadows, I mean we could just rework the whole mesh, but we're going to be looking at that in the next lecture. So let's just try a weighted normals for now to just get rid of those shadows there. Alright, so this is it for this lecture. In the next one we're going to be working with more advanced Boolean. So until then.